Canto 6, Nirvana and the Discovering of the All-Negating Absolute. A calm, slow sun looked down from tranquil heavens. A routed, sullen rearguard of retreat. The last rains had fled, murmuring across the woods, or failed, a sibilant whisper mid the leaves. And the great blue enchantment of the sky recovered the deep rapture of its smile. Its mellow splendor, unstressed by storm-licked heats, found room for a luxury of warm, mild days. The night's gold treasure of autumnal moons came floating shipped through ripples of fairy air. And Savitri's life was glad, fulfilled like Earth's. She had found herself, she knew her being's aim. Although her kingdom of marvel changed within, although her kingdom of marvelous change within remained unspoken in her secret breast, all that lived round her felt its magic charm. The trees' rustling voices told it to the winds, flowers spoke in ardent hues of unknown joy. The birds caroling became a canticle, the beasts forgot their strife and lived at ease. Absorbed in wide communion with the unseen, the mild aesthetics of wood received a sudden greatening of their lonely muse, the bright perfection of her inner state, poured overflowing into her outward scene, made beautiful dull common natural things. An action wonderful and time divine, even the smallest meanest work became a sweet or glad and glorious sacrament, an offering to the self of the great world, or a service to the one and each and all. A light invaded all from her being's light. Her heartbeats danced communicated bliss. Happiness grew happier, shared with her by her touch, and grief some solace found when she drew near. Above the cherished head of Satyavan, she saw not now fate's dark and lethal orb. A golden circle round a mystic sun disclosed to her newborn predicting sight the cyclic rondure of a sovereign life and her visions and deep-etched veridical dreams. In brief shiftings of the future's heavy screen, he lay not by a dolorous decree a victim and the dismal entry of death, or borne to blissful regions far from her, forgetting the sweetness of earth's warm delight, forgetting the passionate oneness of love's clasp. Absolved in the self-wrapped immortal bliss, always he was with her, a living soul that met her eyes with close enamored eyes, a living body near to her body's joy, but now no longer in these great wild woods, in kinship with the days of bird and beast, and level to the bareness of earth's brown breast, but mid the thinking high-built lives of men, in tapestried chambers and on crystal floors, in armored towns of garden pleasure walks, even in distance closer than her thoughts, body to body near to soul, moving as if by a common breath and will. They were tied in the single circling of their days, together by love's unseen atmosphere, inseparable like the earth and sky. Thus for a while she trod the golden path. This was the sun before abysmal night. Once as she said in deep felicitous muse, still quivering from her lover's strong embrace, and made her joy a bridge twixt earth and heaven, an abyss yawned suddenly beneath her heart. A vast and nameless fear dragged at her nerves. As drags a wild beast its half-slaughtered prey, it seemed to have no den from which it sprang. It was not hers, but hid its unseen cause. Then rushing came its vast and fearful fount, a formless dread with shapeless endless wings, filling the universe with its dangerous breath, a denser darkness than the night could bear. Enveloped the heavens and possessed the earth, a rolling surge of silent death it came. Curving round the far edge of the quaking globe, effacing heaven with its enormous stride. It willed to expunge the choked and anguished air and end the fable of the joy of life. It seemed her very being to forbid, abolishing all by which her nature lived, and labored to blot out her body and soul, a clutch of some half-seen invisible an ocean of terror and of sovereign might. A person in a black infinity, it seemed to cry to her without thought or word. The message of its dark eternity and the awful meaning of its silences. Out of some sullen, monstrous vast arisen, out of an abysmal deep of grief and fear, imagined by some blind, regardless self, a consciousness of being without its joy, empty of thought, incapable of bliss, that felt life, blank and nowhere found a soul. A voice to the dumb anguish of the heart conveyed a stark sense of unspoken words. In her own depths she heard the unmuttered, unneutered thought that made unreal the world and all life meant. Who art thou claimst thy crown of separate birth? Thy soul, the soul of the illusion of thy soul's reality, and personal godhead on an ignorant globe, and the animal body of imperfect man. Hope not to be happy in a world of pain, and dream not, listening to the unspoken word and dazzled by the inexpressible ray, transcending the mute superconscious realm to give a body to the unknowable, or for a sanction to thy heart's delight, to burden with bliss the silence still supreme, profaning its barren formless sanctity, or call into thy chamber the divine, and sit with God, tasting a human joy, have created all I devour. I am death and the dark, terrible mother of life. I am Kali black and naked in the world. I am Maya, and the universe is my cheat. I lay waste human happiness with my breath. I slay the will to live, the joy to be, that all may pass back into nothingness, and only abide the eternal and absolute. For only the blank eternal can be true. All else is shadow and flash in mind's bright glass. Mind, hollow mirror in which ignorance sees a splendid figure of its own false self, and dreams it sees a glorious solid world, a sole inventor of man's thoughts and hopes. Thyself the invention of moments stream, illusion's creature or subtle apex point. At last know thyself, for vain existence cease. A shadow of the negating absolute, the intolerant darkness traveled surging past, and ebbed in her formidable voice. It left behind her inner world laid waste, a barren silence weighed upon her heart. Her kingdom of delight was there no more. Only her soul remained, its empty stage, awaiting the unknown eternal will. Then from the heights a greater voice came down, the word that touches the heart and finds the soul, the voice of light after the voice of night. The cry of the abyss drew heaven's reply, a mighty storm, a might of storm chased by the might of the sun. O soul, bear not thy kingdom to the foe, consent to hide thy royalty of bliss, lest time and fate find out its avenues and beat with thunderous knock upon thy gates. Hide whilst thou canst thy treasure of separate self behind the luminous rampart of thy depths, till a vaster empire it grows part. But not for self alone, the self is one. Content abide not with one conquered realm. Adventure all to make the whole world thine, to break into greater kingdoms true, turn thy force. Fear not to be nothing, that thou mayest be all. Ascend to the emptiness of the supreme, that all in thee may reach its absolute. Mm. Wow. Except to be small and human on the earth, interrupting thy newborn divinity, that man may find his utter self in God. If for thy own sake only thou hast come, an immortal spirit, into the mortal's world, to found thy luminous kingdom in God's dark. In the inconscience realm, one shining star, one door in the ignorance opened upon light. Why hadst thou any need to come at all? Thou hast come down to a struggling world, to aid a blind and suffering mortal race, to open to light the eyes that could not see, to bring down bliss into the heart of grief, to make thy life a bridge twixt earth and heaven. If thou wouldst save the toiling universe, the vast universal suffering feel as thine, thou must bear the sorrow that thou claimst to heal. The daybringer must walk in darkest night. If he knows not grief, how shall he find grief's cure? If far he walks above mortality's head, how shall the mortal reach that too high path? If one of theirs they see scale heaven's peaks, men then can hope to learn that Titan climb. God must be born on earth and be as a man. God must be born on earth and be as man, that man being human may grow even as God. He who would save the world must be one with the world. All suffering things contain in his heart space, and bear the grief and joy of all that lives. His soul must be wider than the universe, and feel eternity as its very stuff. Rejecting the moment's personality, know itself older than the birth of time. Creation and incident in its consciousness, Arcturus and Belphegor, grains of fire. Circling in a corner of its boundless self, the world's destruction, a small transient storm. In the calm infinity it has become, if thou wouldst a little loosen the vast chain, draw back from the world that the ideal has made. A mind selection from the infinite, the senses gloss on the infinitesimal dance. Then shalt thou know how great bondage came, banish all thou from thee, and be God's void. Then shalt thou uncover the unknowable, and the superconscient conscious grows on thy tops. Infinity's vision through thy gaze shall pierce. Thou shalt look into the eyes of the unknown, find the hid truth in things, see null and false. Seeing null and false. Behind things known, discover mysteries rear. Thou shalt be one with God's bare reality. In the miraculous world he has become, and the diviner miracle still to be, when nature, who is now unconscious God, translucent grows to the eternal light, eternal's light. Her seeing his sight, her walk, his steps of power, and life is filled with the spiritual joy. And matter is the spirit's willing bride. Consent to be nothing and none, dissolve time's work, cast off the mind, step back form and name. Step back from form and name. Annul thyself that only God may be. Thus spoke the mighty and uplifting voice. And Savitri heard, she bowed her head and mused, plunging her deep regard into herself and her soul's privacy in the silent night, aloof and standing back, detached and calm, a witness of the drama of herself, a student of her own interior scene. She watched the passion of the toil of life and the toil of life, and heard in the crowded thoroughfares of mind the unceasing tread and passage of her thoughts, all she allowed to rise that chose to stir, calling, compelling not, forbidding not. She left all to the process formed in time, in the free initiative of nature's will, thus following the complex human play. She heard the prompter's voice behind the scenes, perceived the original libretto set, and the organ theme of the composer's force. All she beheld that surges from man's depths, the animal instincts prowling midlife's trees, the impulses that whisper to the heart, and passion's thunder chase sweeping the nerves. She saw the powers that stare from the abyss and the wordless light that liberates the soul, but most her gaze pursued the birth of thought. A franchise from the look of surface mind, she paused not to survey the official case. The issue of forms from the office of the brain, its factory of thought, sound and soundless words, and voices stored within, unheard by men, its mint and treasury of shining coin. These were but counters in mind's symbol game. A gramophone's disc, a reproduction's film, a list of signs, a cipher and a code. In our unseen subtle body, thought is born. Or there it enters from the cosmic field. Oft from her soul stepped out a naked thought, luminous with mysteried lips and wonderful eyes. Or from her heart emerged some burning face, and looked for life and love and passionate truth, aspired to heaven, or embraced the world, or led the fancy like a fleeting moon across the dull sky of man's common days, amidst the doubtful centitudes of earth's lore, to the celestial beauty of faith's gave form, as if at flower prints in a dingy room, laughed in golden vase one living rose, a thaumaturgist sat in her heart's deep, compelled the forward stride and upward look, till wonder leaped into the illumined breast, and life grew marvelous with transfiguring hope. A seeing will pondered between the brows, thoughts, glistening angels, stood behind the brain, in flashing armor, folding hands of prayer, and poured heaven's rays into the earthly form. Imaginations flamed up from her breast, unearthly beauty, touches of surpassing joy. And plans of miracle, dreams of delight, around her navel lotus clustering close, her large sensations of the teeming worlds stream their dumb movements of the unformed idea, invading the small sensible flower of the throat. They brought their mute, unneutered resonances to kindle the figures of a heavenly speech below, Desires formed their wordless wish, and longings of physical sweetness and ecstasy translated into the accents of a cry. Their grasp on objects and their clasp on souls, her body's thoughts climbed from her conscious limbs, and carried their yearnings to its mystic crown. When nature's murmurs meet the ineffable. But for the mortal prisoned in outward mind, all must present their passports at its door. Disguise they must don the official cap and mask, or pass as manufacturers of the brain. Unknown their secret, truth, and hidden source, only to the inner mind they speak direct. Put on a body and assume a voice, their passage seen, their message heard and unknown, their birthplace and their natal mark revealed, and stand confessed to an immortal sight, our nature's messenger to the witness soul, impenetrable, withheld from mortal sense. The inner chambers of the spirit's house disclose to her their happenings and their guest. Eyes look through crevices in the invisible wall, and through the secrecy of unseen doors. There came into mind's little frontal room thoughts that enlarge our limited human range, lifted the ideal's half quenched or sinking torch, or peered through the infinite, or peered through the finite at the infinite. A sight opened upon the invisible, and sensed the shapes that mortal eyes see not, the sounds that mortal listening cannot hear, the blissful sweetness of the intangible's touch, the objects that to us are empty air, and there are they the stuff of daily experience? In the common pabulum of sense and thought, the beings of the subtle realms appeared, and scenes concealed behind our earthly scene. She saw the life of remote continents, and distance deafened not to voices far. Wow. She felt the movements crossing unknown minds, the past events occurred before her eyes. The great world's thoughts were part of her own thought, the feelings dumb forever and unshared, the ideas that never found an utterance, the dim subconscious incoherent hints, laid bare a meaning twisted, deep and strange. The bizarre secret of their fumbling speech, their links with underlying reality, the unseen grew visible and audible. Thoughts leaped down from a superconscient field, like eagles swooping from a viewless peak. Thoughts gleamed up from the screened subliminal depths, like golden fishes from a hidden sea. This world is a vast unbroken totality, a deep solidarity joins its contrary powers. God's summits look back on the mute abyss, so man evolving to divinest heights, colloquies still with the animal and the jinn. The human godhead with stargazer eyes lives still in one house. With the primal beast, the high meets the low, all is a single plan. So she beheld the many births of thought, if births can be of what eternal is. For the eternal's powers are like himself, timeless in the timeless, in time ever born. This too she saw, that all in outer mind is made not born, a product perishable. Forged in the body's factory by earth force, this mind is a dynamic small machine producing ceaselessly till it wears out. With raw material drawn from the outside world, a pattern sketched out by an artist god. Often our thoughts are finished cosmic wares admitted by a silent office gate and passed through the subconscious galleries, then issued in times marked as private make. For now they bear the living person's stamp. A trick, a special hue claims them his own. All else in nature's craft, and this too hers. Our tasks are given. We are but instruments. Nothing is all our own that we create. That's facts. That's why there's hundreds of cases of everything from electricity to the telephone and many other things. Patents were placed all over the world in the same time period. I don't know about you, but that tells me that certain people tap into divine mind. No idea is original. It's all from God, straight from the heart. Our tasks are given. We are but instruments. Nothing is all our own that we create. The power that acts in us is not our force. The genius too receives from some high fount. Concealed in supernal secrecy, the work that gives him an immortal name. The word, the form, the charm, the glory and grace. Our mission sparks from a stupendous fire, a sample from the laboratory of God, of which he holds the patent upon earth. What did I just say? God mind. Comes to him wrapped in golden coverings. He listens for inspiration. Inspiration's postman knock. He listens for inspiration's postman knock and takes delivery of the priceless gift. A little spoilt by the receiver's mind, or mixed with the manufacture of his brain. When least defaced, then it is most divine. Although his ego claims the world for its use, man is a dynamo for cosmic work. Nature does most in him, God the high rest. Only his soul's acceptance is his own. This independent, once a power supreme, self-born before the universe was made, accepting the cosmos, binds himself nature's serf, till he becomes her freedman or God's slave. This is the appearance in our mortal front. Our greater truth of being lies behind. Our consciousness is cosmic and immense. But only when we break through matter's wall, in that spiritual vastness can we stand, where we can live the masters of our own world, and mind is only a means and body a tool. My bitch go loco, she loco. Slide on a nigga with the pump. And mind is only a means and body a tool, for above the birth of body and of thought, our spirit's truth lives in the naked self. And from that height unbound surveys the world. Out of the mind she rose to escape its law, that it might sleep in some deep shadow of self, or fall silent in the silence of the unseen. High she attained and stood from nature's free, and saw creation's life far from far above. Thence upon all she laid her sovereign will, to dedicate it to God's timeless calm. Then all grew tranquil in her being's space, only sometimes small thoughts arose and fell, like quiet waves upon a silent sea, or ripples passing over a lonely pool, when a stray stone disturbs its dreaming rest. Yet the mind's factory has ceased to work. There was no sound of the dynamo's throb. There came no call from the still fields of life. Then even those stringing rose in her no more. Then even those stirrings rose in her no more. Her mind now seemed like a vast empty room, or like a peaceful landscape without sound. This men call quietude and prizes peace, but to her deeper sight all yet was there, effervescing like a chaos under a lid. Feelings and thoughts cried out for word and act.